Today we will discuss the 70th seven. So Gabriel is continuing his explanation to Daniel, and today we will see what he says in chapter 9 and verse 27 to Daniel. Gabriel tells Daniel that he will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering, and on the wing of abominations will come one who makes desolate, even until a complete destruction. One that is decreed is poured out on the one who makes desolate. So something is going to happen now in the future in our own lifetime. So let us see what the 70th seven is. So in verse 27, we find that a 7-year period will begin for Israel with a covenant or an agreement in the Middle East. So the situation is just right for it now. So this covenant will be made with Daniel's people, that is the people of Israel. The covenant will be made with the people of Israel, and the ruler will be this covenant maker. So in the near future, a ruler is expected who will be the final head of the Roman Empire. He is the little horn of the fourth beast. In Daniel chapter 7 and verse 8, we have discussed that. So the ruler will come with a peace treaty. The fourth beast, we find, had 10 horns. In Daniel chapter 7 and verse 8, the fourth beast, the Roman Empire, will be revived, and it will have 10 horns or 10 rulers. And Israel will welcome the peacemaking role of this head of the 10-nation confederation arising out of the Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire will be revived, and 10 leaders will be there, and out of them a little horn will come up, and that will be the leader of the 10-nation confederation. So what is this talking about? Any guesses? So we find today that the United Nations Security Council is the most powerful legal body in the world today, and it has an embryo of the future world government. So the Security Council has the main job of maintaining international peace and security. So about 193 countries belong to the UN and follow its decisions. So in the United Nations Security Council, there are 5 permanent members, and only these nations have the right to own and deploy nuclear weapons legally. I mean, today other nations are also producing nuclear weapons, but at the end of World War II, the 5 nations appointed themselves as permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, and we know that they are US, UK, France, Russia, and China. So the commissions are working on expanding this number in the United Nations Security Council, and the strongest case of that is Germany, Japan, India, Brazil, Nigeria, South Africa, and a confederation of Middle East nations. They are all struggling to become members of the United Nations Security Council. So we have to watch out for the time when the Security Council has 10 permanent members or 10 rulers. So Israel, once the leader comes to make a peace treaty with Israel, Israel will welcome the peace treaty and the efforts of the 10-nation confederation, that is, efforts of the Security Council, which will then comprise of 10 members instead of 5. So this leader of the Security Council will pose as a Prince of Peace, and Israel will accept his authority. So under this new leader, Israel will rebuild its temple and Levitical worship will be re-established. And the Bible is telling us that in the middle of the 7, that is, after 3.5 years of the treaty, he will break his covenant or treaty with Israel. This ruler will end the Levitical worship, will end the sacrifice and offerings and the Levitical system that will be established in the rebuilt temple in Jerusalem. So after the leader gets worldwide political power, he will take up control of the world's religious system and cause the world to worship him. So he is going to use religion. And today we find that there's a people ecumenical system in which churches are all gathering together to be one. And even the Roman Catholic Church and other religions are also participating. And in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 4, Christ is warning us that this leader will oppose and exalt himself over everything that is called God, over everything that is worshipped, so that he will set himself up in God's temple and proclaim himself to be God, the man of lawlessness. That is what 2 Thessalonians chapter 4 is warning us, and it's going to happen. The leader that comes to save Israel and have a 7-year treaty will proclaim himself as God. And in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 8 it says, all the inhabitants of the world will worship the beast, and all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life will worship the beast. So the leader who is coming to set up peace treaty in Israel, let us call him the Antichrist, and the book of Revelation calls him the beast. So he will want the worship of the world and will put an end to all the organized religions. He will pose as the world's rightful king and God, and as Israel's Prince of Peace. And in chapter 9 of Daniel, verse 27, second part, Daniel was told that the ruler who will come will set up an abomination that causes desolation. And Jesus also spoke of that in Matthew 24, verse 15. Jesus Christ said that when you see the abomination that causes desolation in the holy place, you know that the time of Christ's rapture is near. The time of Christ's coming is near. So Daniel is speaking of the abomination that makes desolation, and Christ is also speaking of that. So what is this abomination that causes desolation? It refers to the statue of the Antichrist that will be set up in the temple of God, and that statue will breathe and talk, and the whole world will worship it. You know, the world is just looking for some signs and wonders to happen so that they can worship it. And further, in Revelation chapter 13, verse 14 and 15, John wrote that the false prophet will set up an image of the ruler, that is of the Antichrist, and the whole world will be forced to worship it. If you don't worship that statue, you'll be beheaded. And then after all that, his end will come. The end of this ruler, the Antichrist and the false prophet and the Satan, the end will come. In Daniel chapter 7 and verse 11, we find that the beast was slain, that is, Antichrist was slain, and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. And Revelation chapter 19 and verse 24 confirms that by saying that that ruler or the Antichrist and the false prophet will be cast into the lake of fire, and also the devil when Christ returns. This is the history that is coming upon the world. Hope you enjoyed it. Although it was a bit lengthy, we can't break it up into parts. May God be praised for revealing us the coming times, because God does nothing unless he reveals it to his servants, the prophets. So he revealed it to Daniel and to the Apostle John in the book of Revelation. God be praised.